Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Odin here. Sitting at my desk enjoying myself a Boilermaker. That's my preferred drink usually. And I wanted to talk about this book. It's a golf book. And I know fuck all about golf. Well, there's a story behind it, and the illustrations, the pen and ink work is phenomenal. Anthony Ravielli is the artist. The story behind this, though, and it's probably hard to see, but that is all grayscale done with ink, and it's hard to see. But the story behind this was I was traveling to Texas on an airplane, and the person sitting in front of me was reading this book. And the illustrations were blowing my mind. I was eavesdropping on the drawings. And like I said, I don't give a shit about golf at all. But I was looking at the line work, and I was just like, what the fuck? This is so amazing. So anyway, I land in Texas, and this is with my ex, and her sister lived there. We were celebrating Thanksgiving there. And her sister's husband is immensely engrossed in golf right now, and he's so into it. And just through the natural conversation, he starts telling me about this book called 5 Lessons by Ben Hogan, and he says it's like the definitive book on how to golf and how to improve your game and really get a grasp on what you're doing. He starts explaining it, and I go, yeah, I was on the airplane, and a guy in front of me was reading a book and had these amazing illustrations. I'm trying to change the subject because I don't care about golf. And he's like, I think that's the one. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it's got drawings. And so the book's full of them, not just the cover. It's full of them, all these positions of their swings, etc. And so he shows me the book, and sure enough, I'm like, that's the one. That's the book I was eavesdropping on the plane. Weirdest thing, because I don't think I've ever thought about a golf book in my entire life. And then, rather odd, fortuitous series of events, I see one on the plane, and then I see one at my destination, the same exact book. So he gave this to me. I think he thought that I would get into golf, because I kind of went, yeah, someday I probably should, I have friends that golf, so maybe, I don't know. And he gave it to me, and I took it home, and every once in a while I just look at it and get blown away and feel like such an amateur of the use of ink and shadow. But what was interesting is then I was at like Goodwill or something, and came across a paperback version. There's a different image on the front, but one of the same images in both books. And I went, well, I'll get this one. I'll return this one to him next time I see him. So I got myself a paperback version. The funny thing is, I'll probably never see him again, because his wife and her sister was my ex, so probably not going to Texas to see them again. So now I have 2 copies of this book, but I just found it riveting. I was so overly impressed by the phenomenal artwork. And then I looked him up. Anthony Ravielli is mostly sports, but he did lots of illustrations. He worked for Sports Illustrated, just doing drawings, and it's really fucking cool. And he deserved it. Amazing ink work. So yeah, I just thought I'd talk about that a little bit. There's also interesting news coming to my life. So it's never, it never ends. So there's always shit going on. Like I said, I made a video at the beginning of the year after my dad passed away, a tribute to my dad. He's an amazing man. And it's been just a snowball of shit since then, dealing with Well, the emotions of that, um, the expense of the travel, because Dad lived in Colorado and I live in Washington State, and when he was sick, I was out there visiting, and when he passed, I went back to visit and for the funeral, and then just trying to work with my siblings on how to handle things. And, it's just been rough, and just so much other stuff in life. And then I had a BlackBerry, and I loved my BlackBerry Key One, and it worked with AT&T. And then one day it just wasn't calling or receiving calls. I didn't know why. And then I did some scrounging around, found out when AT&T shut down their 3G towers, it fucked things up for most BlackBerries. Unless you had bought it recently from AT&T, then it might work, but it needed a new SIM card. So I call them and I'm like, it's not working, and they send me the tech guy says, I'll send you a new SIM card, that'll work. And I'm like, I don't think it will, actually. From my research, I don't think that's gonna work. He's like, no, that will work, I'll send you a SIM card. So then this is after a few days of not having it able to work to make calls. Then I have to wait a few days for the SIM card to show up, put it in, of course it doesn't work. And so then I said, look, I'll just get a new phone. I don't want to switch from BlackBerry. I like the physical keyboard. That was my favorite thing. Is why I had a BlackBerry, and they don't make anything else that has a physical keyboard like that. And BlackBerry has talked about making a new one, but it sounds like they're not gonna. But there was talk. Anyway. So I got myself a Moto G 5G Stylus 2022. A little research, it was relatively cheap, but it seemed to function all the shit that I would want. And a pretty good avenue for a BlackBerry user. And got it. Of course, now it receives calls, which is a plus, but I can't make calls. And this is all just a lot of weird shit going on since they shut down their 3G towers. So I am told. And they're working on it. So in the meantime, I can't make calls. I can receive them, which is nice. But if somebody left me a voicemail, I wouldn't be able to hear it because I couldn't make the call to my voicemail. Anyway, that's leading into this other story. I got the new phone, but then I decided to go on my Google account and mess with Google Drive, and I went in there and saw a bunch of old folders and files that were shared with a person I'm no longer friends with. And this person was once a really close friend of mine, and then they quit being a friend of mine. And the circumstances that I'll get into. But anyway, I just wanted to get my name off of these files. They were in my Google Drive, and there was a bad taste. I'll explain why. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to take my name off of them. So what had happened was, unconditional shove is an idea that I keep talking about here and I'm working on. And at one time, this friend and myself, we had worked on many creative projects together, known him a long time, and it was all through music mostly is how we met. We did a lot of music projects, and we kept talking about doing animation, comic books, all kinds of stuff. But we started working on this one idea. He was more or less writing it, and I was helping write it and also drawing it. And it just, the idea was pretty cool. But the more we worked on it, it got super convoluted, and I just didn't like it anymore. And working with him was increasingly frustrating, which I'd worked with him in the past. It's always frustrating. But this had kind of come to a head because I was like raring to go. And I shouldn't have done this, in hindsight. And like looking back, I'm like, I wasn't cool. But it contributed to the fallout of our relationship. But I hadn't talked to him. He was moving on to a bunch of other projects he was working on, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take this idea and make it. You know, I'm tired of you dragging your feet. You know, we came up with it together, but I'm just gonna take the idea and make it into a comic book. And that was what originally Unconditional Shove was this idea. So I started working on it, and then he called me out on it, and I, rightfully so. You know, I was a little like, well, I'm doing all the legwork, and we came up with the idea together. Like, but I realized what he's saying. You know, he did a lot of work in the writing process and was working on it, even though I was changing it quite a bit. It was the basis of the story I was working on. And so, but I had about 9 pages already drawn. And so I said to him, look, let's talk about it. And I offered to buy the idea from him. And he didn't like that. Was insulted by that. Fair enough. So I said, look, I won't do the idea. I've got 9 pages drawn, but there's no lettering and there's no story in except for the images, and I can make those a whole nother story. You know, there's one element that I had to keep in, and that was virtual reality. And if you've seen any of the images for Unconditional Shove, the first volume is that everyone's got VR goggles, and they're all hoses and wires, and that's their simulation. They're piped in. I'm like, I can't change that and keep these pages. So I have to keep virtual reality as like part of the story, as a big part of the story. And the original story had virtual reality in it. So anyway, he was cool with that. We were cool. I'm like, I'm just going to change it. I have to keep this one element because of the pages that are drawn, but you know, it's not going to be the same. So fast forward to when I get the new phone and I'm getting my name off these shared files. For whatever reason, when I take my name off of them, or I get them out of my, you know, make them so they're not in my Google Drive, it showed it to him as I was sharing them. And he showed me a screenshot. It said, Odin shared this file. And I'm like, I didn't share anything. I didn't share it. I didn't fucking save it. I didn't move it. I didn't do anything. I just tried to take my name off and get it out of Google Drive. And maybe someone knows, like, why the fuck that happens. But so rewind a little bit. I started posting images of new stuff that I was drawing for the story after I'd changed it. And I was posting them on Facebook and Instagram. And he came out publicly and saying that I had fucking stole his idea. That even after we talked, I was still stealing his idea, even though I said I'm not, and I wasn't. And I went, well, I could see how you'd think that. There's no lettering, there's nothing on there, and maybe you could, you know, somehow make that connection. And I was trying to be cool with it, but he started doubling down, and he was calling me, like, very vile, angry, childish name-calling, just like, you're a piece of shit, you're a thief, you're a coward, you're fucking disgusting. And he was just really going at it publicly. And then he was sending me like some even more fucked up shit privately. And I was trying to just play it off as much as possible. I mean, this is a friend, like one of my best friends. And I was just like, I don't know what to tell you at this point. And it got so bad that he was just like doubling down. He's just like, you're a fucking piece of shit. You disgust me, you know, basically telling me I could just go die and he'd be happy with that. But so the last thing I said was like, we're fucking done, man. I'm like, I'm not stealing your idea. You haven't listened to my explanation. It doesn't matter to you anymore. You just want to be pissed. We're done. And then I just left it at that. Last message I saw, he was like, if you publish it, you know, see you in court. I'm going to sue your ass. Which, I don't know how he could. The stories are exactly, or, you know, they're just so different. There would be no case. But So anyway, I just said, well, that's done. You know, I guess we're not friends anymore. Because nobody fucking talks to me like that. You don't talk to another grown man that way. I mean, you just don't. It's ridiculous. So, that was almost a year ago. That was about 9 months ago or something. And then, so anyway, go back to getting rid of the files, or him showing him a picture. It says I shared these files. I just get a text and I don't recognize the number. And I look at it and it says, why the fuck are you sharing my files? And I'm like, who is this even? Like, it took me a second to register because I deleted him from my contact list, so I didn't recognize his number. And I'm like, oh fuck, it's him. And I'm like, I didn't move any files, you know. I'm like, I just trying to get my name off it. And he's like, I don't fucking believe you. You lied about like stealing my idea. You lying about this. And he went back into the whole like fucking piece of garbage, you know, like eat shit and die kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, seriously, I just wanted to not be attached to this stuff anymore. I wanted to distance myself from you as much as possible because you're a vile, angry, evil person. I think he's borderline sociopathic, actually. And I was just like, you've created this delusion in your head. So anyway, but I quit feeding it. I was just like, all right, I'm not going to respond, you know. The last thing I responded was, look, I told you what's real, what really happened. I'm not trying to steal your idea. My idea is totally different. I've got 40 pages drawn. The story is not the same. I don't want anything to do with the original story. I don't want anything to do with the creative projects we'd worked on, including the music. I just don't want to be associated with you, and I don't want anything to do with you. And that was the last message I sent. And then he sent another one that was like, okay, we'll submit the script for my approval or something like that. I'm like, for your approval, huh? Respond. At this point, I'm like, just fuck off, you know? The story's totally different, and everything about it's different. Like I said, the only thing that connects the two is that virtual reality is involved. Artificial reality is in both ideas. But I'm like, it's in tons of ideas. Tons of stories that have been written with that as the basis. So the original one was kind of like The Cell. And my story has more to do with dreams and combating them, but anyway, I was like, I'm not sending you a fucking script for your approval. You came out of nowhere, and I get it, like, he thought I was sharing files, so, I don't know. Anyway, all that to say, like, shit like that hurts. It really hurts. And if it was just some random person, it wouldn't fucking hurt. But this guy was a close friend, you know. You know, he knew my children. He'd watched my children. You know, when my ex and I went on a date, he'd stay with my children and watched them. You know, and it was Thanksgiving, and he didn't have family around. You know, we invited him to celebrate Thanksgiving with us. He had car troubles all the time. He was moving all the time, and I helped him every time. I was the one friend who was constantly like, you're moving? I'm there. I'll help you. You know, you need to work on your car, bring it to my garage, we'll work on it. You know, I don't know what I'm doing any more than you, but like, we'll do it. I'm here. I'm your friend. And then he created this whole, like, you're an evil person out to profit from off of my story. And I'm like, no, I'm not. You know, and like I said, I admitted that doing it originally wasn't cool. And after he called me out on it, I agreed. Like, yeah, no, that's true. We came up with the idea together. I shouldn't just do it myself. So But after I told him I was changing it, he wouldn't believe me. He kept thinking I was still stealing it. I'm like, it's not that gold of an idea that, like, we kept thinking that I couldn't write a story, even though I've won short story contests and, wrote all the lyrics to all the songs that we worked on. Like, I can write. Anyway. That to say, it just hurts. But I will say that, like I said, it's been like a pretty shit start to the year. And I'm trying to regain my motivation for the comic book. I've got my job. I get up and go to work, but when I get home, I'm like, I don't feel like it. It's a sad thing. I don't feel like drawing right now. And I don't like it. But I got to. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to draw. I've got to. But I will say that, however mystical it sounds, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. We'll just stick with mystical. However mystical it sounds, I feel when it seems like you're getting attacked or misunderstood, or everything seems to be kind of like giving you shit all at once, that it's like you're on the verge of a breakthrough. It's kind of like that's when you really got to look, really got to work hard. So that's why I got to get back to drawing, is you can't stop. Like, it's almost like, so I grew up Christian, and there was a strong belief in, like, attacks from the devil. And then you think, well, why would this devil care about my success, or creating failure in my life? And I'm like, only because something good's coming. So again, whether you believe that or not is immaterial. There's this sense that, there's a phrase, it's always darkest before the dawn. And so when you have these moments where you just feel like the universe, or whatever, some spiritual thing is going on that's attacking you, or that's obstructing you at every corner, it's almost like that's the time to push the hardest, because the breakthrough is coming. And with unconditional shove, I know this is like some fumbling through learning process. Even before my former friend and I were going to work on a comic book together, I'd never done it. I'd drawn some things sequentially, and I'd always drawn, but like to just really dive in and do it, never done that before. This is all new territory. And but I have to fumble through this. I have to get to the end of this book and put it out there, and create a crowdfunding campaign and publish it. And even if it's not profitable at all, and even if people talk shit about my artwork and my story, I don't care. Like, I have to fumble through it, because the next one's going to be better. And I have to fumble through that one, and hopefully the one after that is going to be even better. But you don't know until you throw it out there. And you have to try, and you have to forge through these outside influences and effects that you have no control over. They just kind of come, and they come at the wrong time, and they come in waves. And I'm telling you, if anybody else is out there that hears this, because nobody actually watches these videos, they're like my own diary. But if anybody's out there that hears this and is going through that, or you may go through it in the future, or you may have seen it in the past, because I've seen it in the past. When these things happen, it's time to you can take a little break to evaluate and to refocus. Because I know after I got divorced, that was one of the biggest things, was like, I remember saying, focus on what is good, and making your life better, making your family better, your kids, and discard the other stuff. And I really went straight. I really, just cut out things that were unhealthy and things that were a distraction from me being the best dad that I could be. Because at that time, that's all I could focus on, was just be the best dad. And focus on your kids. Focus on your mental health and strength. Focus on spiritually being stronger and have more resolve. So this isn't like that. This isn't like when I got divorced, because it destroyed like my sense of like family and a lot of what I had projected my future to be like. It really just rattled my whole fucking world. But it's another moment. And these are glorious, I believe, God-given moments where you're beaten down, you're destroyed, or you're affected by so much outside of yourself that you cling to what you know is right, what you know is good, and you brush off what's getting in the way, what's not beneficial. So that said, I think these moments are glorious. I think there's a breakthrough coming, and what I'm doing now is just focusing on what I can do to be better and try to avoid the noise. And this comic's going to come out, and it's going to be it's going to be great, because it's going to be the first thing I do in the comic book world. And people talk about journey of 1,000 steps, or never despise humble beginnings. Yeah. You have to start at the start. There's no shortcuts. And I try to impart that to my children when they're like, they'll regularly tell me, Dad, I wish I could draw like you, or as good as you. And I'm like, well, sure you do. If I were your age, I would too. But I'm looking at Anthony Ravielli, or all the countless amazing names in comic books that I idolize and look up to as far as artistry in comic books, and go, well, I wish I could draw like them. I wish I was half that good. And what I impart to them is like, there's no shortcut to get there, though. I wish I was half as good as them, but I can't get there wishing. It's practice, it's dedication, it's putting in the time, and understanding the craft and wanting to be good at it. So anyway, all that to say, cheers. I hope you're all doing awesome. I'm doing all right. Like, as much as I talk about like all these outside things, and losing my motivation for drawing, which is an unexpected side effect that I don't like. But I have healthy children that I love, and I get them for a week because of spring break coming up, and I'm excited to do some camping and some fishing with them, and just enjoy teaching them and being in their company. They are awesome, awesome kids, and I'm really blessed. And so all the shit that hurts my heart, because I'm not talking about the other shit, I'm just talking about an annoying phone and former friends coming in, there's other things, and obviously my dad passing away was huge, But I'm extraordinarily blessed, and yeah. So anyway, as I get super contemplative, before I get too contemplative and I just sit here and zone off, I need to get drawing. So, this is Odin. Take care. Hope you're all doing awesome. And until the next video. See ya.